So, as an actual crime case, I've completely abandoned the Vallow Daybell case as a crime case. I think the case is a complete miscarriage of justice. I think the case is about privilege. And I think two people, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, have been afforded unsurmountable, unlimited privileges. And I think it's a case of privilege. And I think that privilege is the winner. I don't think there's any justice in this case. So I'm not going to get myself emotionally involved. However, I will from time to time talk about the many other aspects of the case. There's lots of aspects of this case to discuss, such as infidelity and religion and Mormon splinter groups, and narcissism and sociopathy and psychopathy. All of those things are interwoven in the Vallow Daybell case. But as a crime case, I've completely abandoned it. I think it's the worst handled crime case I've ever seen. So it also appears that she's gotten away with, Lori Vallow Daybell has gotten away with her first murder, and that's the murder of Joseph Ryan. I don't care what the autopsy has come up with. I 100% believe that either her or Alex murdered him. I absolutely believe that she's responsible for Joseph Ryan's death. So she's already gotten away with that, and she's gotten away with so much. When it comes to Tammy Daybell and her autopsy, I'm not jumping to any conclusions. Just because they haven't decided to say what they found or what they didn't find doesn't necessarily mean that they found anything, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't find anything. It's very possible that they didn't find anything. It's very possible that her autopsy was inconclusive. Not everything can be detected. And if he was putting, Chad Daybell, if he was putting poison in her food or whatever, lacing her drinks or whatever, some things can't be traced. So I'm not saying that they didn't find anything, but it's very possible that they didn't find anything, or they could have found something. But I'm more interested in, or I was always more interested in, them finding Lori and Chad guilty of Tylee and JJ's murder, conspiring together. And they would have gone to prison forever for that anyway, or they should be. It would be the way if they were found guilty. I'm not saying they will be found guilty of that, but if they were charged with conspiring to murder Tylee and JJ, then the likelihood of them getting life sentences would be very, very high, or at least 25 years. I don't know that's going to happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I was always more interested in them being charged for the children's murder, and they would be doing life sentences anyway for everybody, for all their victims. So I wasn't really as interested in them getting the specific charges for Tammy or Joseph or Charles, as long as they were found guilty for Tylee and JJ's murder. I wouldn't have minded, because they would have been going to prison for life of those anyway. And I'm not saying that Tammy Daybell and Charles Vallow and Joseph Ryan don't matter. They absolutely matter. But it was always more important to me that they answered for the children. And I'm actually quite disgusted with this case. I think it's a travesty. I just think there's no respect for the victims. So Chad Daybell was married to Tammy Daybell for decades, and all of a sudden he meets Lori Vallow, and it seems to me that their affair started while Tammy was still alive, from all what I've heard. And it's just mind-boggling. I think that Lori Vallow was just a few years younger than Tammy, but I think she acted more like she was a decade younger than Tammy. You know, she was this kind of blonde bombshell, you know, was into fashion. You know, when you saw her walking around in Hawaii with her husband, you know, her new husband, Chad Daybell, she was dressed in a mini skirt. And she was actually quite near to being 50. You know, she's in her late 40s. There's nothing wrong with dressing in a mini skirt at any age. I'm not I'm not bashing that. When you think that those children were buried in Chad Daybell's backyard and they were gallivanting around in Hawaii and she was dressed the way that she was without a care in the world, it really is quite disturbing. So, and there's also evidence that they were shopping around for wedding rings before Tammy Daybell had even died. So that alone proves to me that Tammy Daybell's murder was planned. He needed to get her out of the way, or he wanted to get her out of the way for the life insurance. And he obviously never really loved Tammy Daybell. She was good for the moment, for the years that they were married. But as soon as he fell for Lori Vallow, it was like, he discarded Tammy Daybell. And, so he got the life insurance and he got to be with Lori Vallow, who was the more glamorous and slightly younger woman. Chris Watts discarded Shanann for pretty much exactly the same reasons as Chad Daybell discarded Tammy. They both wanted to be with the woman that they were having an affair with. They both wanted the life insurance. That's my belief. And neither woman was of substance, as far as I'm concerned, in comparison to either of their wives. Tammy was a very plain Jane. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. She was a woman of substance. She wasn't into, a lot of makeup, a lot of jewelry. She was a decent, strong, loving, caring family woman. She was a woman of substance. She wasn't a woman like Lori Vallow who, just breezed through husbands like a train track, like a train wreck. Tammy Daybell was a woman of faith. She was a woman of substance. She was a woman who cared about her children. And Chad Daybell just discards her after all these years for a serial divorcee. And I think that is the danger of being married to a narcissistic sociopath. When you're discarded in the worst of ways. And if you're married to somebody who just tells you that they found somebody else and they don't want to be with you anymore, that's actually the best way of being discarded, even though I know that it would hurt. I know that it hurts. It would hurt any woman to be discarded for another woman. But actually, if you're still alive afterwards, after you're discarded, then that's a good thing. These men, both Chad Daybell and Chris Watts, discarded their wives in the most horrific way.